Okay, go ahead, Coach.
Okay, Roy Pittman here, talking to Dr. Dustin Binder about the workshops that he do in California with teachers. I'd like to know what he wants the teachers or the administration to take away from these workshops that will help them in their school dealing with the issues and the kids that they might have.
I guess the first thing that comes to mind just building the tools to work with all the diverse needs of kids today. Um, Learning how to support kids in all different ways, academically, socially, mentally. Kids are asking more and more of schools all the time, so just trying to help them keep up. Um, I think I always feel like I'm just sending out a lot of your message and what you made you a successful coach and what you've taught the other coaches that have been there. You see it with High, the ability to build relationships with kids, engage and motivate kids, and try to help teachers understand some simple skills to do that. How to help students believe in themselves, have that sense of agency, and just create a high achieving culture. So that I always feel like just been working to try to help translate some of the things you see at Peninsula and some of your leadership skills into classrooms and build that capacity.
Do you think that we take diversity too lightly? We're telling kids, well, you don't see color.
Um, I mean, there's a lot of different approaches how schools are doing it. I think they're struggling to bridge a lot of that culture divide, and figure out how to like always felt like being real lucky. A lot of times we've talked about how a lot of the one thing you learn from Peninsula is being able to be around people that are different. It's always great, Peninsula there in North Portland, and you have people drive 90 minutes, what have you, to be a part of it. So you grow up around different people. And I think, you take some of that for granted, but then a lot of people aren't comfortable with people that have different backgrounds and what have
Yeah, that really is a big issue.
you.
That's the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
we're so generic. We want everyone to be normal and be the same, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone think like us, but everyone has an opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as their opinion is like our opinion, it's okay. But if it's not like our opinion,
Mm-hmm.
then we separate them.
Yeah. Yeah. I
One of the things that I think about Peninsula, it's it doesn't matter when they start, as long as we end up at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we do. They start at different times, but we always end up at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, a great teacher is like a great coach. Being able to make a team, take a group of kids from all over, like we were saying, different ages, different skills, and bringing those people together, creating an inclusive environment out of that. That's the goal of schools, right? Um, so try to bring some of those strategies to how do you bring a group together, and especially I think one of the maybe a big challenge is how do you from scratch create a high achieving culture or create a high achieving culture in schools that have historically struggled or failed. And how do you turn around that morale and create the positive energy? I think is a big challenge, because you see the difference at Peninsula, like you said, just with the culture and stability and the role models there, kids, if they keep showing up, they tend to end up where all those role models and people they looked up to were, or even exceeding that. But how do you create that in more struggling environments?
Well, one of the things that I know when people come to Peninsula to coach, they are in a much better mood. They're there because they want to be, not because they have to be. I think in the classroom, a lot of teachers are there. A lot of them want to be there, but a lot of them have to be there because it's their job.
Yeah.
And their attitude determines how they come across with these young people. I think that's very important. It's like if you're stopped by a police officer, if he's having a bad day,
you're having a bad day.
You're going to have a bad day.
For sure.
Yeah, but if he, if he does it the right way, you just take your punishment, take your ticket, and you got to move on, and it's kumbaya.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of great points. Like you take for granted how many hours you and Haig and Matt and a lot of other people, Cleve, volunteer. And like you said, you can't be choosing to be there. And sometimes a job can feel like a job. So that makes a difference. And I think, I guess, I think the other part I was thinking is, just, how do we, like, how do you stay motivated and hungry for 50 years and how not be a job and be a boring routine, and stay motivated and have that energy that kids want to be around?
Well, one of the things that I think is the hardest thing to focus on is output and not outcome. Everyone wants to have, say, in wrestling, state champions. Everyone in school, they want to have A students that ace the tests so they look good. But I'm just looking for the output, stuff that you put in it. And if you give me your best, I don't care if it's a C or a B or an A or a D or even an F. If you just give me your best, if that's the best you can give me at that time, then I accept it, and then we can move on. Because then we don't worry. The outcome will take care of itself. And if you stay in the process long enough, it will be good. It'll be a good thing. And I find that just that coaches every once in a while, they get hung up on you can be a state champion, you can be a national winner. And to some of these kids, they don't care about that. But they do care about, hey, the output. How much are you going to put forward in practice that you can put forth in the match? And part of successing is learning how to fail. You got to know how to fail. And they can fail at Peninsula and not be made fun of. But whereas if you fail in the classroom, then everybody knows it because, all you bad kids are sitting together. All you D students are sitting together. You F students are sitting together. A students are sitting together. And they treat you differently.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I think a great message of what Peninsula gives a lot of kids is that, like you said, learning how to come back from failure, resilience, making Pat your best friend. All of those things, I think, those are critical skills that are really hard to teach. And especially today, like you said, a lot of times, earning the parents' trust so they will let their kid fail and let you work with them so you can challenge kids, and let them fail, and the trust there to, as a teacher or a coach, to guide kids. So I think, we make a lot of the same mistakes in schools as in wrestling, trying to make everything fun and easy. And then I think we get in trouble then because things get hard, especially if you want to be good at something. And then they don't know what to do, or kids take it personally that something's wrong with them. So, finding ways to help kids, develop more of that resilience and persistence, seeing those ethics is very important, I think, and a great thing a lot of kids learn at the park.
how can we help the parents? Parents are, there's no book
Right.
written on parenting. There's no books written on relationships. They got books out there, but they don't have any book that deals with the reality. It's all about theory.
I don't, fear sells. And, there's a lot of scary things out there for kids now. And worrying about all the different mental illness and these things and dangers on the internet and these things. So I guess, and I'm sure, and your child is your prized possession. So it can be very hard to take the chance and let them go, let them fail. Um, and I don't have the answers to where that balance is, but knowing each kid, I think, is important. I guess I would say, when you say that, one thing I learned coaching was, each of these parents, like you said, they're doing it for the first time. Um, and it's neat about coaching, and if you do it for 10 years or so, you really see a whole generation grow up, not just the kids you coach, but also their competitors. And
Mm-hmm.
you see them all grow and how things turn out. So I guess, mm, I would encourage parents, find people that you trust, put your, and make that a deciding criteria when you're trying to figure out who to coach your kids or what teachers to have. But I would just, find them people that you trust, and let things go from there. But just be picky, and, don't just take any information that's out there.
Well, one of the things you just said that really caught my ear is when you said, "I don't know everything."
Hmm.
Many of these teachers, I know almost all these young people coming out of college
Hmm.
think they know everything.
Hmm.
And they're going to go out there and they're going to save the world.
Hmm.
And it's my experience that they're going to hurt more kids than they help because we are in trouble.
Yeah.
We are in trouble. And then when they find out that they don't know everything, then hey, they're in debt. They're, they got a family and they have to go to work now, and just different situations and circumstances happen,
Yeah, I
and they
mean,
have
that's
to
a
deal.
great point. We all have our own lives, and trying to bring that positive energy that we were talking about earlier when you have things going on at home. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it takes, as it takes a lot of energy to work with kids all day, every day, and to be positive and constructive. Um, and to find a support group so you're resting. And I think one challenge of education now is more and more we're always putting more on teachers' plates. Raising expectations. Also, they need to do social emotional learning, and be able to differentiate and meet the needs of all kids all the time. So um, you do see a lot of teachers that wear down from some of that, and it can be thankless. Maybe parents don't feel like you got their kids as far along as they would have liked. So a lot of that self-care things, and just learning how to have your own, like you're saying, resilience to not give in to some of those negatives.
you know i I know for a fact you're only going to get it when you get it,
Hmm.
and that's in wrestling, in school, and
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
But we as a society, we say no, you're going to get it and you're going to get it now, and
Hmm.
if you don't get it now, I'm going to label you
Hmm.
and you'll never get it, and that's not true.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and absolutely. And I think, that's kind of what it can undermine a classroom culture sometimes when, you're trying to force every kid to get it now. And then a lot of kids, especially in the early grades where they're not ready to sit and work it on pen and paper for 4 or 5 hours a day, where when they're not ready to get some lesson, um, then they start acting out. and then you start having more and more behavior problems as we try to move everybody along at some theoretical pace. Um, but I think, like you said, I've always been a believer, if you can build a relationship and you get the kids hungry and inspired and believing in themselves, then they can learn a lot very quickly, and they can, they become hungry. Like, I think you've probably seen it with me. You can't make people stop them. You can't make them stop learning, stop thinking.
No, see, and that's the thing. And especially with these phones and with all the technology that they have, once they get hungry for something, man, they'll just stuff themselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. But it has to be on their terms,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that they understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that. And but I guess all that begins with me. I'm working with these young ladies now at colleges.
Mm-hmm.
My granddaughter's graduating from college,
Mm-hmm.
and she is saying that most of these young Black females need a role model or just someone to bounce things off of other than their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to take on that role. Mm-hmm. And that mainly just listening. Because one of the things that I found out is you can't solve someone else's problems. They have to.
Yeah.
And I think we get in trouble when we say, well, no, we're going to solve this problem for you.
Yeah, and then, I think that's a lot of maybe what parents, struggle with, is you care so much sometimes you want to fix it.
Yeah.
And having the discipline and things and judgment to know when to let them struggle and when to step in.
Well, I know parents, their self-esteem and self-worth is based on what their kids are doing.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a prized possession for sure.
When you get in a conversation with the parent, the first thing they'll tell you is, well, my kid gets good grades in school.
Mm-hmm.
Would they ever tell you, well, my kid doesn't get good grades in school, but he's a good person?
They're the ones that get quiet.
See, but it's always, my kid gets good grades.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer, all we need to do with young people is teach them how to learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's all. If we can teach them how to learn, then they will learn what they want to, when they want to.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And then, once they find that thing that, it becomes their purpose or their passion, that's when then they can dive into it and take the most of it. And they'll know it then, and everything will make sense.
It takes about 5 or 6 minutes to learn a new move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If a kid really wants to learn it.
Yeah.
So that's why we give them the basics and let them be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to get them to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that we want them to be. Let them be who they are. Either we accept them or we don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I think. I know Haig is finally doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest 3 words to say is I love myself.
Mm-hmm.
Look in the mirror and say, I love myself. Mm-hmm. Just the way I am.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's end it there. That's a great homework assignment.
Okay.
All right,
man. I'll talk to you
later in the week.